It is Midweek Extra. We are sponsored by Green King Sports. Huge thanks to them for partnering with us throughout the 24/5 season, and huge thanks to you for joining us, and of course to my wonderful, handsome, beautiful, about to be very interesting panel in front of me. I've got Al Gunn, I've got James Sutton, and I've got Dan Austin, and we're going to talk a little bit about last night, of course, but we're also going to look ahead to what they're calling, me, but maybe my guests as well, the biggest game of the Premier League season so far. But before we get into that, Dan, there's been a bit of debate about whether Liverpool were any good last night. So were Liverpool any good?
I thought that they were. It depends, obviously, on what you constitute as good, but I would say that managing a European away match against what is in theory the top seed, and therefore one of the most difficult matches that you will face in the initial phase, is pretty impressive. I wouldn't expect them to go to a competent side that's well coached, that's got some really good young players, and batter them and score 3 or 4 goals. So I think to go there, deal pretty well with an initial bit of pressure. You know, they had lost the 2 games in the competition so far with a home team, so needed to have a bit of a fast start. They tried to have one, and Liverpool restricted them to shots from distance, and nothing that felt like, they're really in behind us here or are creating proper chances. And from when they scored, I just thought looked terrific for quite a long time anyway. Really sensible decision making on the ball, efficient off it, pressing them in the right moments when they did get around the box, kind of shuttling them wide and then not really facing any threat. And then, late in the game, Kelleher had to make a few saves. But again, no situation where I thought, oh my God, they really should have equalised there. And the reason you have good goalkeepers is that they're going to have to make saves sometimes against good teams. So I think it was an absolutely fine and quite impressive European away performance.
Where are you on it, James?
Yeah, I'm the same as Dan, really. You think back historically, those games where we go away in Europe and, it'd just be a real slog and we'd maybe concede a goal. I mean, first and foremost, we don't concede. That's the biggest one for me, is going away from home in Europe and not conceding. I mean, that's huge. I thought Kelleher was great again yesterday when called upon, covering himself in glory. Whether that's for a move away in the summer or not, we don't know. But he hasn't really put a foot wrong for me. And it was there was, of course, there's that period in the second half. I don't think we're particularly great, but I'm never panicking. I'm never sat in front of my TV screen thinking, oh my God, it's coming. We're going to have, backs against the wall and last ditch tackles. It's not that. It's just the nature of going away in Europe. I think you're always going to concede some pressure. They're a good side. They're one of the 2 toughest, arguably toughest games that we've got in this initial phase of football, certainly away from home. And to come away with the 3 points and to be top with Villa, I think, which is a weird thing to say.
Top with the Villa.
I'm never going to get used to that. Just a really comprehensive, quite a grown-up performance, I think. Get the business done in the first half, get a goal ahead, and then just sort of, just soak up some pressure and go, this is fine, we've got this, we don't need to panic. And then if anything bad happens, we've got, Gravenberch. So everything's fine.
In his new role.
In his new role, where he's just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, I'll just mark the near post for you and clear anything that comes in. Virgil wanted to do things to him.
That reaction from Virgil.
That I only feel when I look at your gym pictures on Instagram.
You just couldn't resist.
Absolutely not. Moving on. Al, where do you think that we are generally more positive that have seen the football media? Do you think there's a bit of underestimating of Red Bull Leipzig because they've got a silly name, or do you think there's because there's only 2 teams on 9 points, and we're one of them, and that's from 2 tricky-ish away games, and we're looking good in this competition. We're not conceding goals, a bit like in the sort of the Premier League. We could have gone more, especially if they didn't give us that penalty. But yeah, why do you think that there is a bit more positivity about the Reds generally at the moment, but particularly last night?
I think it's really, we seem more professional in terms of how we start games and our concentration throughout. I think there were times on the Jurgen where we would go through phases, then we drop off for 10 minutes, and then we think, Christ, we need to pick it back up here again. Whereas we seem to be on this constant level where if we've got to click up some gears, more than happy to. We just need to turn it on at the right times. I think last night is another example of, and Slot said this before, when we go away, we keep a clean sheet. We don't concede. That's the first aim. and we're doing that, and we're putting in professional performances by understanding and respecting. I think in the 3 Champions League games we've had so far, we haven't underestimated the opposition. Okay, Bologna, they're not a Champions League outfit particularly. They're not used to that level of competition. However, we treated them as if it was Real Madrid. We went in, we were professional, we won 2-0, we got out. And I think we saw that again last night. We went there, we knew that Leipzig were going to have to turn it on. They've lost their first 2. But again, we treated them with respect. There was no arrogance. We went in, we got the job done again. And I think we're seeing this pattern emerge with Slots where it's a consistency, or actually maybe an expectation from the manager that every team's the same. Every team's the same, the job's the same, and if we need to click up the gears, not a problem. We may see that again on Sunday. We saw on Sunday we played a very different game against Chelsea, but again, we're learning constantly on the job, and I think really with some teams like Red Bull away, it doesn't matter what your name is. You can have Red Bull in any title. An away game in the Champions League is still an away game in the Champions League. So, do you know what? I'm handsomely impressed by what we're doing so far.
Handsomely impressed. I enjoyed that. You talked about the keeper sort of, being there when it mattered. And, he is doing so well at the moment, Dan. And, James said before, is he playing for a move? And I'm almost not really bothered because whatever his motivation is, it's benefiting Liverpool Football Club at the moment. And there was a story yesterday that Alisson might be out a bit longer than what they were expecting. And I was sort of like, I'd almost sort of stop thinking about it, really, because not stop thinking about him, but not like, I'm not checking every day. I'm not, ringing people saying, do you know how Alisson is? Because he is performing at such a level. Yeah, maybe he's not quite, Alisson's level, but I personally don't think anyone is. But the performances he's putting in are just so calming compared to how we did feel when Alisson first went down.
The thing about it is you see his name at the top of a team sheet and don't bat an eyelid anymore. It's just Kelleher's playing, and then you see who's a centre half and who's playing centre mid and yada yada. It's just normalised, and he's doing his own things really well. I would argue that maybe over time he might actually be better with the ball at his feet than Alisson. I think Alisson has actually regressed a little bit over time with his kicking a little bit, even though he's still absolutely incredible at all of the other things. Certainly not saying that Kelleher is an overall better goalkeeper, but I think one of the reasons that you don't necessarily notice the drop-off is, as well as him doing his own kind of fundamentals of goalkeeping really well, the style doesn't have to change. So normally, if you brought a backup goalkeeper in, certainly if they were going to play for an extended period of time, say like 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, then the staff or the centre-halves or the captain might say something like, we'll have to play 5 yards deeper because this fella isn't as quick, or he can't fucking kick it, or we're just a bit less sure about him because we're not used to playing with him, or we don't quite have as much confidence in him, or whatever it is. But the fact that they've played so much with him over the past few years, combined with the fact that he is stylistically very similar to the first choice goalkeeper, just means that nothing tangible actually changes for anyone. He might be a bit less likely to save a one-on-one or something like that. But you don't actually have to play in order to counter some sort of weakness. And normally you would have a fellow who's maybe like in his late 30s and is coming to the end of his career, and he might be a bit of a good shot stopper still, but the rest of his all-round game might have slipped off a little bit. That's what you expect when you've got to play someone for an extended period. The fact that he is so talented, but is kind of mirroring what the first choice goalkeeper does, just makes everyone's life so much easier. And I think if we're saying that we're not flustered one bit when we see him on a team sheet, I think it's absolutely the case that when they all line up for kickoff, no one at any point is thinking, Kelleher's behind me, you've got to do this instead, or we'll be thinking about this. I think it's just totally normal to them, and that's the highest compliment that you could pay to the lad. And that opposition that they played against, if he eventually is going to go somewhere else, and I suppose if they're signing the new goalkeeper, then he probably will have to, I think he should go and play for a team that's really high up a European league. He could play for another Premier League side, but he'd probably end up having to go to someone that's like in the bottom half or trying to get in the top half and isn't playing European football. He's a Champions League quality goalkeeper. He should be playing for a decent team that's in the Champions League. So I hope for his sake that if he is going to move on from Liverpool at some point in the relatively near future, that they've got the people around them have got high ambitions and are open to the idea of moving to another country, because Liverpool are playing some good sides so far in this tournament and will continue to do so. And you're thinking, we've got a better keeper, the backup one, but he fits here, he belongs at this level for a really good team. So I hope that this isn't just like a patch of him playing in this competition. I hope that if he's not going to be the Liverpool keeper, then he gets to go and do it for someone else.
Yeah, here. It's obviously made slightly easier for him, James, by the fact that we are defending so well as a team. And you mentioned that, Gravenberch and, that sort of big defensive moment for him, how they're covering each other, I think as a team is what's really impressive me. There's obviously individual defenders that you might wish to highlight who are playing really well at the moment and are in really good form and are in really good defensive form. But also, there's not someone who you're able to stand here and go, oh, he's rescuing us, do you know what I mean? Because they're bailing each other out. They're defending well as a unit, but also individually in their moments. If someone does make a bit of a mistake, someone's covering for them, and I think that's why they conceded so few goals and indeed chances.
Well, that's the manager's idea when he first came in, I think, was to just shore us up defensively and build from there, because we've got that wealth of attacking talent. That's unequivocal. There's no debate. They're interchangeable going forward. It's exciting. We've got goals all over the team, and we arguably need some more from midfield, but from the back, and that's where we're starting every build-up as well. So I think it really suits Kelleher right now, actually, to have a more sort of defensive-minded, probably doing the team a bit of a disservice, but a patience and a calmness and being able to pass it back to Kelleher and for him to start an attack from there and just being really, really calm on the ball, I think really, really suits him because he's seeing a lot of the ball, and for a goalkeeper in his situation, I think a lot of goalkeepers would all shit it. Do you know what I mean? Oh, now you've got another 7, 8, 9 weeks as Liverpool's first choice goalkeeper, and in that you've got Real Madrid, you've got 2 or 3 away games in Europe. These are big moments for a goalkeeper, and I think the way that we're set up right now, and as you rightly say, having Virgil van Dijk and Konate. I mean, Konate's been an absolute monster this past few weeks. I mean, he's absolutely unbelievable right now, and the confidence that must give Kelleher to have these fellas in front of him, and as you say as well, Gravenberch, tracking back as well. The whole team tracking back. Darwin Nunez is fucking everywhere right now. He's absolutely.
I love that he's decided he just plays centre, so it's like he'll just through the middle of the pitch up and down, just causing
that's your role, just that bit.
Yeah.
But everything's set up for Kelleher to succeed, and I think you marry that with a goalkeeper who is trying to put himself on the shop window and wants to perform week in, week out, wants to keep clean sheets, wants to pull off worldies. It's all set up there for us to be keeping clean sheets going forward, and it's a great place for him to be. Yeah,
that idea of seeing defending as a team activity, I think, is what we're seeing, and Jürgen had that as well, but it was different, wasn't it? It was press from the front, and it was sort of work hard. Whereas now it feels like, although he still wants to press in certain situations, it's more like, if your man's going, you're getting back with him. If you can see danger, it's up to all of us to try and put that out, and that's what I'm seeing more of. It's firefighting now, but it's not firefighting in a panicking sense. It's almost like spotting the smoke and going and dealing with it.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? I think over the last few years we've relied on our firefighter being Virgil. And I actually think that's been a slight shift this season where everyone's burdened the responsibility. There's not one over-reliance on Alisson or Van Dijk to have one good game. It's Trent's man runs, Konate spots the danger, Virgil comes across, and there's that confidence in each other that we'll sort it out. We'll understand it and we'll sort it out. I also think as well, the way the manager's changed the system with Robertson sitting slightly deeper gives us that confidence that we're always going to have 3 and then maybe Gravenberch, or we're going to have 4 and maybe Jones drops a bit deeper. And again, it's that confidence that's emitting through the team that there's never a panic. We're not sat there in front of the telly or in the ground or watching it going, God, we could be hit on the break here, or God, we're 1v1. We're sat there going, these lads will sort it out. And that's so refreshing to see so early on. I think we probably expected to sit here in 6 months and go, yeah, we've worked it out, we're sound. And don't get me wrong, we're going to have some hiccups throughout this maybe next 6-7 weeks, but that's okay because the foundations are being put in place. And as a fan, I think we can all sit here and go, wow, do you know what, in the 12 weeks that he's been with us in pre-season to now, to put this in place, fantastic, well done. And you just want that foundation to grow and to grow. And these tests will put that really in the spotlight, into the media and in front of all of us to go, you're going to Arsenal, you're playing City, you've got Real Madrid, you've got Leverkusen. It's like, right now, let's prove our mettle. We've built the foundation, we've got the confidence, let's go and do it against the big boys and let's consistently do it. So, yeah, I just think it's exciting to see that we're all pulling in the same direction.
Shared responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're now as fans, we're always on board as a fan group, but we're so on board with that, especially when you look at Sunday like Chelsea. All we needed was a little rile up, we needed a little foul, and then you have us on your back and you're playing 12 against 11 and you think, fuck, do you know what, this is class, and it just makes me so excited to watch.
Who impressed you up top, Don?
I like what Nunez is doing in the last couple of games because I think it's really different, and it's especially impressive given he's not played very much since the manager has come in. He seems to have obviously preferred Jota. Jota now has got the injury and Nunez has had to play, but when he has, I think in both games hasn't been a huge threat. I don't think he had a shot against Chelsea. I know he scored last night, but it's not like he had, 4 that were well set or something like that. That's partly the nature of the game, so it's not a criticism of him. But I actually like that that's maybe a little bit less of a thing. And what has happened instead is him doing all of the other, I would say, in some ways harder bits of actually working with the team. So you mentioned the idea of him being in the middle of the pitch. The amount of times he's started moves off by picking the ball up, sort of on the edge of the centre circle in the Liverpool half, maybe carries it 10 yards, spreads it wide left to Gakpo, and that was happening in the Chelsea game. It happened a couple of times last night. It feels like he's just developed a bit more of an understanding of what he's going to have to do to actually get minutes in this team. And certainly if Jota is now going to be missing for however long it will be, then he has to be more than what he's been so far. He has to be more than just what often felt like, a significant threat in front of goal, but kind of doing his own thing a lot of the time. And he would react to what was going on around him as opposed to being a genuine part of the plan of what was going on around him. The last couple of games, and they only are a couple of games, it's important to say, but the last couple, he's felt like a genuine sort of fulcrum through which you actually play, rather than just, he's the end point and he might kick it in or he might miss. He actually has felt a part of the side, and if that can continue, I think it makes him a far more valuable player than what he's been so far.
Yeah, it's interesting when Dan was talking there, and it's a really interesting point, but I was thinking he's actually successfully sort of altered or changed a few of our forward players now that the manager, and whether it's getting more out of them, like Dan says, it's sort of early days here. We've seen good performances from Nunez under Jürgen, and but I think it is interesting what he's sort of doing with them. And listen, Salah's just Salah, and no one wants to change him. He can just sort of crack on. I think Jota's just sort of cracked on with being very Diogo Jota. But the other three, obviously with Diaz, there was the questions about output. We've seen a lot more of that. Nunez, it was questions of game intelligence. Well, we're seeing tons of it at the moment. He's almost running games from the number 10. And Gakpo, I was so impressed with again last night. And with Gakpo, it's like, he just needs a bit of urgency. And we've seen much more of that, him grabbing games and really, being a big part of them rather than sort of flitting in and out of them. And just as Dan was talking there, I was like, forget about the defensive bit for a second, which has been huge. As his body of work with these forwards, he can be really pleased. And it's a credit to them as well, because they're obviously intelligent boys to be able to take on new information and develop so quickly. Yeah,
a lot of it's work rate, isn't it? I think, a lot of the arguments that were, against Darwin Nunez in the last couple of years, certainly from, I've spoken about him at length, a kind of a work rate thing and be an work off the ball. That's what I've been really, really impressed with. And you saw it last night with Gakpo. Like he's absolutely everywhere. He doesn't stop running, and he's bringing so many people into play, even without the ball, which is such a testament to these lads, that they've bought into what the manager wants, and they've bought into this system and this style of play. And they're all playing with bags of confidence as well, which is really lovely to see, because especially for someone like Nunez, who's been out of the side for a while, like if he came back and just did the stuff that he was doing last season, you'd be really, really disappointed. But the fact that he's grabbing these games by the scruff of the neck, the fact that he's holding the ball up so well. I mean, that's really, really strong, and that's an attitude thing for me. You know, is to go, no, you're not getting anywhere near this. Close control, bringing other players into play, fizzing the ball across. It's really, really exciting. I think we're about to see, in my opinion, you know, I mean, obviously Diego Jota, we don't want to see him injured. We want to see him back. But I think we might be about to see the best of Darwin Nunez, the Darwin Nunez that we were all excited about when we first got him. He just needs that consistency and that run in the team. But from a mentality point of view, I think it's all there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we will do, and he has got an opportunity now. Like James says, we don't know how long Diego's going to be out for, and hopefully it's not too long. The manager suggested it was bruising rather than anything sort of seriously wrong with him, which suggests that, I mean, he could even be back for Sunday, sort of, who knows. But if Darwin Nunez is on the team sheet on Sunday, I'm not worried at all. And again, that was not something that I was maybe saying a couple of weeks ago when he looked a bit short on confidence and form, whereas now you'd fancy him to terrorise whatever defenders they can play, because apparently they're all suspended.
Yeah, I think footballers often say, we only look at the next game, and I actually think Darwin Nunez probably in the last 2 weeks has had a shift in mindset and thought, we've got a run here of 7, 8, 9, 10 games. I want that run, and I want to put my stamp on it instead of just focusing on the next game, or I might get a start, might get 30 minutes against Arsenal. He's looked and he's assessed and he's thought, how can I bring myself into this game? And he did that on Sunday against Chelsea, and then he's put a performance like that last night, which, yeah, he didn't get a goal, but as we all watched, he was involved and he was everywhere. And like you said, John, he's in the middle he's making that middle of the pitch his own to set us up for something, not just himself. And I think that's really refreshing to see from him, because it's constantly been about, what's his output? Is he scoring goals? I need to score goals. And actually now I think there's been a step back from him, and he's gone, well, how can I help my teammates help me and put them in better positions? And I think he's looked at this run. I know obviously Jota, a bruised rib, yeah, he might be on the bench on Sunday. But again, if we see 60 minutes of Darwin Nunez with, I don't know, Arsenal's under-18s at the back because everyone's suspended or injured or whatever else, then absolutely fun, like brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Run him ragged, and just be a nuisance. The only thing with Darwin that you saw it coming on Sunday, where it's like, be a nuisance up until the point where you're not a knobhead and then just want to fight. Let's just rein it in.
Playing on the edge, Alf. Playing on the edge.
No, I love that he's on the edge, but you saw that yellow card about 30 seconds before. He saw him and he lined him up and he ran 20 yards and thought, he's having it. So, do you know what? I think with Darwin Nunez now, as James said, it's so exciting to see. It's so refreshing to see him. That touch he did on Sunday against Chelsea, that first touch, you think, God, I hadn't seen that in a long time. And you think, God, let's go. Let's push on now. Confidence is key with these front sort of 4, 5, 6 players, and he's just got bags of it.
In terms of where it leaves us in the group, well, it leaves us in a really good position. Dan, we're on 9 points. Like I said earlier, there's only a couple of teams who've got that. We've got 2 home games coming up, which are tough ones. But, you know, with Liverpool at home in the Champions League, you'd back us to at least win one of them. Would you be thinking you might be changing your outlook to the tournament? Do you think the manager might? I mean, he seems to approach every game to win it, so maybe, you know, he's not the right manager to sort of ask this question of. But there's 8 games in this little tournament, and I think your ideal situation is we'll get as many games, get as many points on the board as quickly as you can, and then maybe rest them. But with the league games as they are in this next run, City straight after Madrid, for example, do you think he might look at them and go, actually, we could rest a few for this and back ourselves if necessary to get points in January when the league fixture is sort of a little bit kinder and there's FA Cup and sort of things like that? Do you think you might see a little bit of a sort of approach because we have managed to get ourselves ahead?
No, I think he'll stick with what he's been doing, which is keeping the proper nucleus of the same team, and at the absolute most changing 3 at a time. I mean, I wouldn't expect against Brighton to see anyone who's been playing regularly. I think that's a thing that he seems to have earmarked already. Like, we don't treat that with the same importance as the others. And I think, given we've had a lot of success in that competition in the past few years, I think we as supporters can deal with that as well, if that's going to be the case. But for now, the momentum that they're on, the fact that they are instilling, a particular new style and trying to keep up this idea of not conceding many goals and being really hard to play against, I think you have to try and continue that against the tougher opposition at home. So when they play Leverkusen, when they play Real Madrid, yes, you might still see like Simicast playing left back or something like that. But I would still expect the vast majority of what he has made pretty clear is his first team so far to be playing in those games. And then if you've done well in them, and there's no reason to believe that Liverpool won't have done well in them, then maybe by the time you're playing PSV and Lille in January, you can think, you know what, we're actually already in the top 8 here and can't really get knocked out of it now, so it's fine. The 9 points that they've got already, I would argue, is actually probably enough to be in the top 24. So I think genuinely you could lose every game from now on and still get through.
Maybe they should give that a go. There's a social experiment.
They might need one more point. But I mean, like teams like Milan are outside the top 24 at the moment. I think PSG and Bayern are just inside it. I think PSG have got 4 points and Bayern have got 3.
Down,
I think Bayern are 23rd out of the 24 that go through. So there's other teams that have got a lot of pressure on them in this competition. I think I've seen people kind of criticising the format for not feeling that tense or anything so far, and I sort of get why, because there's a lot of games and they don't necessarily feel interlinked or whatever. But there's pressure on a couple of the big teams already, and some of them have had difficult games. Like Bayern have gone to Villa, have had to play Barcelona away as well. So you would think that once the sort of level of opposition has evened itself out, they might just be all right. But Liverpool have had difficult ones and have won them. Bologna were very impressive last year. They've had to go to the San Siro. They've had to go to Leipzig. To be on 9, I think, is hugely impressive. And it just means that even though we're saying, absolutely take the next few seriously, and certainly like that Real Madrid game will be a really good barometer of what the level of progress is so far, it just feels like it makes life that little bit easier. And, of all 36 teams that are in it and the 24 that will get through, if they're already beginning to look at some sides and thinking who would we not like to play, I think you would look at how difficult to score against Liverpool are, the level of opposition that they're managing to control matches against, and thinking, don't really fancy them at any stage.
Yeah, I think that's fair from Dan, and I think maybe looking at it less point of view of, will he rest half the team against Real Madrid, and more, well, actually, isn't it nice to be able to go into a game against Real Madrid and not feel like, it's do or die? Do you know what I mean? Like we're likely to go into it with more points than them. We're likely to go into it with more points than most teams, sort of in there, really. And so, listen, we'll want to win, and like Dan says, it's a good barometer of where we're at. But at the same time, considering we normally play them in a European Cup final, this will have marginally less importance, which would be nice. And that affects intensity and fatigue and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it'll still be a big occasion, though. Even though it's not a final, it'll still be something that everyone will be desperate to win. It's Real Madrid. I mean, we need retribution in a big way. The lovely thing, I mean, I agree with everything that Dan said there. I think he'll take it really, really seriously. That seems to be his way. Which was also, something that Jurgen was always into as well. The amount of times that he sat here and said, "Oh yeah, I can see him making loads of changes, and he'll play this," and he went full strength, taking these competitions seriously. That's what we're in the business of doing. We want to win all these trophies. And the other lovely thing that the position that we're in is, if he does make 2, 3, 4 substitutions, I'm okay with that. The drop-off right now isn't that great. I mean, with Simicast playing really, really well for the first time in a long time, you've got Harvey Elliott to come back from injury, bringing Curtis Jones on the back of his performance at the weekend. Everyone's playing really, really good. So actually, if it just comes down to a matter of fitness and keeping these players as fresh as possible so they can compete on all fronts. But in terms of from a technical aspect, from a game management point of view, I'm not really concerned who we play, really. Even if you bring sort of Quansah on and give him a run around, I'm okay with that right now.
Yeah, well, and that's a nice position to be in as well, because even things like left forward, well, who is first choice? You might say it's Diaz, but Gakpo's played the last 2 well and played well, and of the forward in midfield, I think I know who will start on Sunday, but I couldn't guarantee it, and you pretty much could. A few weeks ago, know with certainty sort of who was going to play there, and so these are nice positions. You'd like a couple back. We'd love Elliott back. He'd make a big difference. you're hopeful on the Jota thing that it's not sort of too bad. And so there's a couple of additions that would really, send us from any one of 13, 14, you'd be happy in any one of 15, 16. That'd be nice, but it's not looking too bad at all. Like James says, whoever he puts on the pitch.
Yeah, and I think it's what we spoke about with Kelleher, is you're looking at every team sheet that's put out at the minute, and you're not surprised, nor are you worried. You're sat there quite content going, these lads will get the job done. And I think Neil made a good point last night on the post-match that what we don't want to do is wrap too many lads in cotton wool. They still need minutes because of the confidence. We want to maintain that confidence. So I think we need to just strike a balance between, we want to give lads like Diaz, is he our first choice starting left winger at this current run? I personally think he is, but I'd have no problem if he played 70 against Arsenal and then next week he was on the bench and then we brought him on for 30, because I think we need to maintain this rhythm in this stretch of games now. Yeah, we can say Real Madrid are going to come and maybe we'll do a little bit of rotation, maybe one, maybe two. But like you said, James, it's still Real Madrid, and I still think the manager's going to pinpoint that and go, I want to make a statement. And whatever that statement may be, whether it's we don't concede, or we try and we play, I don't know, Salah through the middle, or he does something ever so slightly different. But I think he wants to maintain rhythm, and he wants to maintain a level of confidence in the players where, do you know what, we continue this run, and in 6 weeks' time we sit around this table and we go, do you know what, all those team sheets were great. Not a problem. We didn't have. There'll obviously be odd performances that may not go quite to plan, but we'll still sit there as a fan base and as players confident after what we've done. So yeah, you'd like a few more to come back. I'd like to see Elliott try and get back in and get a few minutes. You'd like to see a marginal rotation, because I think Curtis Jones is brilliant. Say what you want about him. I just hate Twitter at the minute that talk about him, or X or whatever it's called, because he's fantastic. So I want to keep that rhythm. But as you said, John, we think we know what the team will be on Sunday in that midfield. But do you know what? If he says to Alexis McAllister, actually, no, do you know what? When you're on international duty, you weren't 100% fit. I've given you minutes, but actually we're going to go with Curtis. I think, again, we'd all sit here and go, okay, not a problem. Absolutely content with the whole situation, knowing we could still have 20, 30, 40 minutes of Alexis McAllister at the Emirates on Sunday. So I think that the manager's in a really comfortable position, but he doesn't like too much comfort. He still wants to be restless and really give the players something to play for. So, yeah, I think the next couple of weeks is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I do think they've still got big lists of things to work on individually and collectively, but that's only a good thing, because he shows that he'll be wanting to get them better, and I think they've, as players, showed a real appetite to improve as well. Okay, I just want to do a couple of announcements before we move on to talk about Arsenal. First of all, if you are like me, a dad, and you've got half term next week and you're wondering what to do, maybe consider taking them down to the stadium. They've got absolutely loads going on around the tours. So there's tours on every day, as always, that there is at Liverpool, but there's lots of special things going on for kids because it is half term. So there's Halloween crafts, there's loads of free activities, and there's even a special appearance from Mighty Red, and that is on, let me get the date, up at 31st of October. So there you are. So 31st of October, you can book on one of the tours with Mighty Red as well. Just to let you know, there are audio guides for younger fans. It's called Cop Kids. So as you go around with the stadium, there is a specialist audio guide for them, and loads of other things going on there too. If you've not done the Anfield Ab sale yet, for some of the younger or braver kids or adults who want to do that, I've bottled it so far. Someone at some point is going to make me do that Anfield Ab sale. I absolutely know it. But at the moment, I am sending I think we said Harriet to sort of do the first one, and maybe sort of someone else. But Michael was game as anything. They both left coincidentally, sort of since then. But there you are. So they sort of both did them. The new museum is absolutely fantastic too, and loads going on. So if you want to check out more of those activities, more of the things that are going on at the stadium across half term, bookings.liverpoolfc.com/stadium tours. That's bookings.liverpoolfc.com/stadium tours. Also, we've got a big event on Saturday in aid of Zoe's Place. If you haven't seen or heard that, that is going on Saturday. There are still tickets available if you go to the Blackstock Market website. That's Hot Water Comedy, where they're based. If you go there, You can still buy tickets for that. It is going to be brilliant. Doors are at 12. Do not come in the evening. You will miss it. Doors are at 12. Adam Rose coming on at 1 o'clock. And then me and Jamie Carragher will be talking about his Liverpool career, a bit about the Reds in general, and all of that from 2 o'clock-ish. And we'll all be done by 4 o'clock. There is also some amazing auction and raffle prizes. Now, the auction prizes are actually available to bid on now. So if you want to slide into my DMs, not you, James, that's always open. But right now, if you want to slide into my DMs for those auction prizes, you are more than welcome. And then basically we'll see if we can beat it on the day. So quickly, the auction prizes are, we've got 4 tickets for the Founders Lounge for Liverpool v Man City, which is amazing. That's courtesy of Beyond Hospitality. So thanks so much for them, for their kindness. It's for, what probably is now the biggest home game of the season in terms of where that trophy might end up. And it's in December, and it's 4 tickets for the Founders Lounge there. We've also got 2 tickets for Liverpool v Leicester on Boxing Day. That is in Brody's Lounge, and they've thrown in a meal in Bacara before as well. That's because it's donated by Paddy Smith, who owns Bacara, so he is able to do that. But he's also got those 2 season tickets as well in the Brody's Lounge, but he's given them up to raise money for Zoe Space for that game, so you can bid on those at the moment. There's a canvas from Istanbul signed by Jamie Carragher and Stephen Gerrard, which is an amazing picture signed by both of them. And also Abigail Rudkin, your friend of mine, absolute superstar. She's done a one-off painting of Jamie Carragher from Istanbul that she's done specially for this event. It is the only one that will exist. We'll get Jamie to sign that as well, and I will get pictures up. She's finishing it now, so I can't even show you right now, but as soon as she does, I'll get it up on Twitter and you can see that. But I've seen it so far and it is incredible, so kind of her. So we'll be auctioning them on the day, but I know not everyone can come. You're around the world and stuff like that, so if you want to bid on any of those items before, you're more than welcome just to DM me on Twitter, and then there'll be the starting bids and maybe the finishing bids, who knows, on the day. And in terms of the raffle, there's signed shirts from Liverpool legends. Kenny Dalglish signed one for us last week. We'll get Carragher to sign some stuff. Some first team players are signing for me today. I'm going to hang around outside the access, see who I can get. That'll be today as well. There's a £75 voucher from Hatscarf Badge, which is obviously the club, unofficial amazing club items right by Anfield. So Hatscarf Badge, and there's an overnight stay at the Titanic as well, and probably some other stuff I've forgotten. So it's going to be really good. So come down, bring some money, raise money for Zoe's place. Fair play to Redmen TV, did over 30 grand yesterday, which is incredible. So obviously we want to try and match them sort of best we can, and so yeah, that's what we want to do on Saturday. So come down, buy a ticket, buy some raffle tickets. If you can't, have a look at them auction prizes, and we'd love you to get stuck in. But now we will go and preview Arsenal. Okay, and into Arsenal then. Thanks a lot to Green King Sports, obviously, for sponsoring us. If I didn't sort of mention them before, if you're looking for somewhere to watch the Liverpool Arsenal game, then maybe consider a Green King Sports pub. You can download the Green King Sports app. It'll give you 10% off all drinks while there's not just football, but any live sports on across the weekend. And you'll also get a free drink when you first download it. So get stuck into that. Find your nearest one. There's loads in London, let me tell you. Absolutely. If you live there, you've got Green King Sports on every corner. But absolutely loads there. But yeah, do download the app and get stuck in, and thanks a lot for them for partnering with us for these midweek extras. But James, yeah, it is a massive game, isn't it, in terms of testing where we're at, in terms of, I just think if we can win, it'll be huge.
It's huge, and it's huge for them as well, given their injury crisis that you mentioned earlier. They got 2 defenders out, is that right? And they got some attackers as well, I think, missing.
Odegaard, Saka has missed the last 2, so you don't know if he'll be fit. So yeah, significant players.
Yeah, Saliba obviously suspended. Timber's still
that's
out.
That's the big one, isn't it? Saliba.
Calafiori going off was not ideal for them. I think he's been really good.
And I don't know too much about their bench. I don't know too much about their squad beyond their starting 11. I know it's not. I know the drop-off's quite significant because they're quite a young team, aren't they? Quite an inexperienced team, I think, and certainly the bench looks that way. So it's huge for them. And yeah, I'm trying not to be overly confident, but I do feel really confident going into this because of what we've said earlier in the show, the defensive work. We go there and keep a clean sheet, and we've got every chance of winning this game. We've got goals all over the team going forward. Everyone seems to be, taking their responsibilities really, really seriously defensively, midfield. And I just think we've got too much for Arsenal. I really, really do. I think it's going to be really exciting. I think we've got pretty much a full fit squad, give or take. I know there's a couple out, but the majority of the team's fit and firing. So it couldn't come at a better time in the season either. Given that we're on a little bit of a roll, we've got a little bit of momentum. It's the perfect time to go to Arsenal and just give them a good slap.
I mean, you're always a confident boy, Al, when it comes to the Reds. So you feeling good about Sunday?
Yeah, I am. Do you know what? I'm excited to see us against Arsenal. And I know it's not a full strength Arsenal, but I think it's a really good test of where we're at right now, and especially with the run that obviously we're on. I think the only thing that I am slightly cup half empty about is last year we went in with confidence and we went down to the Emirates and some individual errors cost us the game, and we left there after a dismal, I'd say it was a dismal first half performance. We got the goal at half time, and then the second half individual errors let us down. We walked out of there 3-1 down and pretty deflated. And I think this week we need to make sure that, and the defensive record gives me confidence in that, but we need to make sure we're turning up, we're professional, everyone does their jobs individually as well as collectively. And then that sets our platform into feeding those attackers to really test a mixed back four from Arsenal. So I am confident, but I'm also leaning on the side of we need to go and still treat them with the most amount of respect, as if they had the full starting 11 at their disposal. But I think for us, we should be able to turn up and really try and put a stamp on the game with so many key players missing for them.
How you feeling about it, Dan?
I'm really excited. I think all of the pressure is on Arsenal for a few different reasons. One, they're the home team. Two, they've got these different players missing. But three, it's already a 4-point gap. And even if it remains, say, a 4-point gap at 90 minutes, that's quite early, I would say, for you to feel like you're that far behind. And then maybe City have won and it's actually 6 to them, I think it would be then for them. So I think they really should feel like they have to win. The fact that Liverpool have been playing so well means that you're definitely, confident that Liverpool are capable of going there and winning. But I don't think Liverpool need to feel any kind of pressure or tension about this fixture. I think they can just try and relax into it as much as you possibly can when you're playing against a really good team. Just try and do the things that they've been doing lately, obviously against the better opponent, but they played a good opponent last week and they played a good opponent last night and did well against them. So no reason to believe that they can't still kind of put their style of playing and certainly like style off the ball into action pretty efficiently. So, the whole point of trying to be the best team is to relish fixtures like this. So you would do anyway as a supporter, but I think given the position that both teams find themselves in the immediate term means that all of the staff and all of the players should be relishing it as well, because I think this is probably realistically the best shape that you could want yourself and the opposition to be in going into it.
Yeah, I think that's all fair, and it is interesting to think about the pressure and where that comes from. And I wouldn't say it's quite a free hit for Liverpool, but it does feel like we're going there, in really good nick and in a really good position. Whereas for Arsenal, they can't afford to lose this game. And listen, that can galvanise you and that can galvanise the crowd, but it can also, it's a lot to go into a game with, especially if the opposition are playing freely and confident like you'd hope we will be.
I mean, if you look at the expectations at the beginning of the season, the expectation was that Arsenal would win the league or at least come very, very close, and they've not started brilliantly. There's a lot of pressure on their manager as well. I think people are starting to sit up and go, well, for all this good play and for all these wonderful goals that you guys are scoring, if we look at the trophies that you've won, it's a pretty bare cabinet. So there's a huge amount of pressure on them, and the expectation on Liverpool this season, nobody really knew what to expect. Everyone was talking that, the big change up in manager, and that continuity wasn't going to be there. Liverpool might struggle. They didn't spend any money in the summer. We came up short last season, although we did well for a large part of it. But ultimately, we weren't in a title race at the end of the season. No one was expecting that, and we find ourselves after only the initial part of the season looking really, really good. Our defensive record in the league is fantastic, and that for me is the key point. Whereas Arsenal, they're not flattering anyone at the moment, and I think for them to, they're not looking forward to this game. I wouldn't have thought, given the players that they've got available, I wouldn't think they'll be looking forward to this at all. And I think if we can carry on the form that we've showed in that, just controlling the game, frustrating the opposition, slowing everything down, playing it at our pace, letting them have some of the ball, do what you want with it. You're not getting it anywhere near our goal. And even if you do, we got this Irish fella who's desperate to impress. Like, do you know what I mean? Everything's kind of set up for us to have a really solid performance. Go there, win 1-0. That'll do fine for me. I'm not expecting us to blow them away. I think it'll be similar to what we've seen. I think we'll control large parts of the game. And yeah, the emphasis will be on them to try and score in a goal that, you know, has been pretty well shored up so far this season.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, hearing James speak there about almost the different approaches that we'll have as fans in our heads of how Liverpool should approach the game, because under Jurgen it was always, you know, start fast, get in amongst them. You'd want, if not a goal early, you want them to let them know that we win a game. And whereas, and if we started slow, it was always a bit of a bad sign, really. It was like, oh, we're not quite at it today. Whereas now, how slots changed there, and also the way this game is, a quiet first 20 suits us down to the ground, because they'll probably start to get agitated. But for us, you know that we like to control games. We know we like to feel into them. You know, we can create a good chance like that with I clipped my fingers there, by the way, everyone, if that wasn't clear. In terms of, you know, that's how we've sort of acted. Boom, suddenly Mo Salah puts this great cross in and we've scored. And so I'll be delighted if Gary Neville's moaning it's not a very good game and the crowd are flat, and like, we're all there to entertain him.
Yeah, I think, do you know what, for me, this game's got a little bit of European away to it, where the first 20 minutes, their fans are going to really try and roll their team up, because they know they've got a depleted squad. They know there's a little bit of pressure on this game for them. So I think for us, that first 20 is going to be just about taking the sting out of them, annoying the fuck out of Gary Neville for 20 minutes, or even 90. I'm not arsed, really, because he's miserable anyway. But take the sting out of it for the first 20. And I think James makes a good point there. I think we need to play at our speed. They're going to try, and for the first 20, they're going to be all over the shop. But I think that will be on purpose. I think it will be fast, free-flowing, counter-attacking. They'll try and use Martinelli. They'll use Sterling as much as they can to try and turn us round. And I think we'll just have to ride the wave. And that's why I think it's very European away, where get through the first 20, get through it pretty much unscathed, maybe see if we can turn them round a couple of times, test David Raya, and then after that we go from there and we start to really apply the pressure in a very sort of Leipzig, very how we've seen this team slowly start to break teams down and frustrate them at their own game, because Arsenal want it to be a fast attacking game, and we haven't got Jurgen anymore, and Slot doesn't want that. He wants us to have the game in the palm of his hands. So I think, I think that the first 20 is going to be quite intriguing, and if not, maybe borderline frustrating for us as fans. But again, we're in this new cycle now, so we're aware that a slow 20 is no bad thing, especially away at the Emirates.
And treating it like a away Europeans fan, because we're really good at that, teams.
Terrific, yeah. I mean, they're really good at everything aside from playing Nottingham Forest, so as long as they don't confuse them for them, they'll probably be all right.
Okay, we'll leave it there for this week. Huge thanks to Dan, to Al and to James for joining me, Andy as well for producing, Jordan for doing all the video. If you've enjoyed it on YouTube, that is down to him. Do try and come and see us at Blackstock on Saturday if you can, but whatever you're doing, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully 3 points on Sunday. Thanks a lot to Green King Sport. Up the Reds.